Yeah. We sending this one out to all the ladies all over the world. Yeah. It's Bad Boy, baby.
He is, without doubt, one of the biggest names and cultural figures the hip-hop world has had for decades. He's reportedly worth more than $1 billion too, and his trial is the biggest since Harvey Weinstein and maybe even O.J. Simpson in the celeb world. And it's been hitting headlines across America and way, way beyond.
Celebrity trial gripping much of the nation. Sean Diddy Combs.
The trial of Sean Diddy Combs.
The sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs.
It involves the man you may know as P Diddy, Puff Daddy, or just plain and simple Sean Combs. The 55-year-old is charged with sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution, and racketeering conspiracy. All charges he denies, but if he is convicted, he could end up spending the rest of his life behind bars. I am Lucy Watson, and this is What You Need to Know. Now, on today's episode, we're going to give you a full roundup of the first week in this eye-popping trial. The details are graphic, horrifying, and explicit. Phil Hirschkorn is our man in court in New York every day for us, and we've been chatting to him to get an idea of what it is like being in court, what he's seen, what he's witnessed, and just how show-stopping this week's evidence has been.
In week one of the trial, we've had only 3 witnesses. The first 2, I think, I would call introductory, and they were important because the first one from the LA hotel authenticated and explained the most damning evidence in the whole case. And that's the video that some people have seen on television for the past year. CNN got it first, and now it's been released to everyone as part of the trial, where Sean Combs is seen in 2016 viciously beating Cassie in the elevator lobby and hallway of a hotel where they had one of their so-called freak-offs, these days-long sex romps with male escorts, just the 2 of them, sometimes others. And she was trying to literally escape. She wanted to leave and go home. And he comes running out in a bath towel and just his socks. She said that she intentionally ran out when he went into the shower, and he grabs her by the hoodie, throws her to the ground, stomps on her a couple times, and drags her down the hallway back to their room. Not only did we see her selfies of her bruised face, her fat lip, and her black eye immediately after that incident in March of 2016, there were other photos of other beatings in their aftermath. Really, really horrible stuff. Not the image that Sean Diddy Combs has as a magnetic, right, music star and mogul. So that's really been the key story of the week. And one other key witness I'll mention is one of these male escorts, very handsome, muscular guy, 40 years old, came in, and he was one of the escorts at one of their first freak-offs here in New York. And he told the story how he was hired to be a male stripper for $200 and sent by his club. And little did he know he was going to be with these 2, celebrities. She answers the hotel room door in lingerie, heels, a wig, and lets him in and explains how they want to have sex with him. Are you good with that? And he thought Cassie was a pretty gorgeous woman. He later developed feelings for her because they would have multiple meetings with this escort. Anyway, he described how it worked, right? And then he sort of authenticates that fact that they actually did this with a lot of escorts in a lot of cities over a lot of years. By the way, he got paid $4,000 that night, not just the $200 to strip. In some instances, he got as much as $6,000. So those were the prelude, the hotel beating, the live escort, and then the star of the week was Cassie, who spent 4 days on the stand, 2 days with the government, 2 days with the defense, going into all of these details, sordid and otherwise, about their 10-year relationship that started when she was 19 as a young singer. Combs is 17 years older. He was already an established mogul. He signs her to Bad Boy Records, a 10-album deal. She puts out 1 album. It's successful, has a couple hits, and then she kind of disappears from the charts, right? She disappears from the industry. I think we've been finding out why, because her life was a soap opera with this guy. And they were doing drugs. They were having a lot of sex. They were having a lot of freak-off sex, traveling all over the world by his side. So her career really suffered as they went down the rabbit hole of this very unorthodox relationship. This case is a reputation killer, even if he's acquitted. He looks like a broken man. I mean, he's not the celebrity fashion icon that he used to be. You know, he's been permitted to have 5 suits at his disposal, you know, which is very normal in a criminal case. You know, you don't go and sit at the defense table in a prison or jail jumpsuit. In any case, that's very prejudicial. So everyone gets a coat and tie if they want it, and he clearly has a nice wardrobe somewhere. But he's chosen not to wear it. He's just wearing plain slacks, plain sweater. He wore a gray sweater the first couple of days. He's worn sort of a cream sweater the last couple of days. And he's gone gray. It's sort of a salt and pepper thing. That's not the way people have seen him. He's always has, you know, black hair still and looking as young as he can be. Right? The entertainment industry loves youth. And, you know, whether it's his vanity or just it's a professional thing you have to do, you know, he can't dye his hair. So he looks old. You know, he doesn't get to interact with his family. It's not like he goes over during the breaks and talks to them. That's not allowed. The most interaction I saw was on the first day where 5 of his 7 children were seated. His mom was seated, and he came in and he looked up and he smiled at the sight of them. They smiled at him. They were all waving frantically. He waved back. His 2 twin daughters, I believe they're about 18. They made the heart sign. He made it back. That's about as personal as he's gotten. He doesn't get to, you know, hang around with the gallery. You know, it's certainly tense, particularly at the beginning when the opening statements happened. That's always one of the 2 most critical days of the trial. The other is the closing arguments. But in this case, there was a little bit of suspense because you didn't know what the government and the defense would actually say. There's a lot of guessing. There's a lot of strategizing. There's a lot of lawyers on TV, right, commentating about what they think someone should do or someone will say. And then it finally happened. And when it started on Monday, the courtroom was packed. A lot of people were warning about celebrity sightings. There really weren't any, but a lot of his family came, filled 2 rows, his children, his mother, and members of the public. There's a lot of interest on the streets of New York, in some ways more than the Trump trial. You know, the pop culture fans of this man and his music. You know, he's a hip hop mogul, Grammy winner for Best Hip Hop Album, and he produced major stars like Mary Blige and Notorious B.I.G. and many, many others. So there's an element of that interest, that kind of excitement and wonderment about him, as are with a lot of celebrities.
Well, our Washington producer, Aisha Kali, is with me now. Great to chat to you again, Aisha. And of course, you know, whilst Phil's been in court, you've been following just how, you know, crazy it's been in the US over this trial since it first began. Now, he has had a phenomenally successful career across spanning fashion, music, film, 3 Grammy Awards under his belt. He founded his own record label, Bad Boy Records. That seems a terrible title now. And he has been pretty much forever in the glare as long as I can remember. I grew up with his music, essentially. I remember my first boyfriend giving me, you know, I'll Be Missing You. It was so huge. You know, he looms quite large in my teenage years. But this case, this trial has taken his spotlight to a whole new level, and it's totally captivating America and the rest of the world too, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most anticipated trials of the year, easily. And there has been so much media attention. You know, there are a lot of personalities out there with a lot of things to say about Sean Diddy Combs. So we were at the courthouse this week, inside court and outside, and there's just a buzz around. There are people who are in support of Diddy, you know, who are screaming "Free Diddy." You see cars coming down with people blasting his music. You get the family coming in, you know, nearly every day. You have Cassie's husband coming in. And again, like, kind of like you said, there's so much interest in this trial because of who he represents. And there's a lot of influencers also coming in, journalists, you know, when it's recess, they all run out and they're there giving their hot takes of what they thought of the testimony, then running back in. So yeah, it's a lot of interest in this trial for sure.
And what about on TV and, you know, online? What is the kind of furor like out there?
I mean, are you on TikTok, Lucy?
Sometimes.
Like, I cannot move for Diddy content. Like every kind of like scroll is just, you know, somebody saying, and this was today's testimony, or hit a live stream from outside the courthouse. It's like constant. And I think partially it's because of who he is, but, you know, also a lot of the kind of accusations and the testimonies were starting to come out in civil cases. So already people had a little bit of evidence. And now that we're in the actual proceedings, it's just, you know, like a pot of gold that everyone just wants to keep digging and getting into.
Well, that is, you know, kind of my next question, I suppose. What is it? Is it just how explicit the details are that people, I mean, I said eye-popping when I first introduced our chat, but it really is. Some of the details are really quite horrific. Is it who he is, or is it something more than that, bigger than that? I mean, you know, we've been in this kind of situation before, several years ago with Harvey Weinstein, a powerful, wealthy, influential character, seemingly doing whatever he wants to anyone he wants. I suppose it's the whole lot, isn't it, really? I'm answering my own question.
I think you summarized it really well in the intro about how important he was for you, and like how he kind of is this figure that looms in so many different areas as the entertainment industry. You know, we have to think about the white parties where you could have Salman Rushdie, Martha Stewart, Jay-Z and Beyonce all appearing all together. And there's very few people who can have that kind of level of celebrity and bring in all these different echelons. So having somebody on that kind of pedestal, when they have a fall from grace, it's just momentous and it's huge. And I think when Cassie originally filed her lawsuit in 2023, the details came out and there was a lot of conversations about it. But then he was still appearing, he was still in public. But then when you get to May 2024 and the video that nearly everyone's seen of, you know, from the hotel lobby, it really changed the conversation and it gave people this real sense of who he was behind closed doors, not just allegations, but a physical material thing that they could see. And I think that's also partially why this has become such a huge issue right now.
I mean, you touched then, and you mentioned, you know, the fact that he spans so many generations. Me and you, we are, you know, we are different. We do inhabit different spaces, different years and different generations, Aisha. But we both know probably equal amounts about him and are learning more and more every day. He is a rapper. He's not exactly a vicar. So there, I suppose, to a point, there are certain presumptions of the kind of life that he did lead, would have led, or I suppose that kind of figure might have that kind of life. And that, you know, that is part of the appeal to their music. The image that's created is generally of a bad boy. Do you think this also has the potential to be kind of quite a reckoning for the music industry?
This has the potential to really kind of open the floodgates for the entertainment industry and particularly the music industry, because I think what people have noticed is, you know, and this is also, you know, part of the prosecution's allegations, that he was using resources and infrastructure in order to abuse women. And when you talk to women who have been in the music industry, they will tell you that this is kind of part and parcel of what can happen. You are vulnerable and there is systematic abuse. So it doesn't surprise me that this kind of downfall of one person has become a reckoning for our industry as a whole. But I think there's a lot of conversations that I'm interested in seeing of how people are going to respond publicly to what's going on in the trial, because it's a conversation about whether it's an industry, is this a genre? like you said, is it music, or is it kind of hip hop, or is this a culture's downfall? But it's a real question mark, because you're also talking about an industry that's tagline is sex, drug, and rock and roll. And so when you start to have these kind of images of, like you said, bad boy, how are you then going to impose, safer standards, or have that kind of reckoning like Me Too? It's really up for debate right now.
I mean, we've definitely covered how huge a figure in the music industry he is and has been. And as a result, has numerous huge stars as friends. Are any of them putting their head above the parapet? Are any of them, saying anything supportive, or are they all laying low?
Short answer, no. I mean, everybody is very tight-lipped. You're not seeing these kind of outpouring of support, especially because of the video. I think there's this real question mark of maybe, even if he's not found guilty of what the federal courts are accusing him of, when it comes to, domestic abuse and domestic violence, there's very few people that are willing to go out on a limb and show true support for him. I mean, we are seeing some of his more controversial friends like Floyd Mayweather or Kanye West, who, created some specialized merchandise in support of Diddy.
Really? I didn't know that, no.
Yeah, Kanye or Ye has been quite outspoken in terms of supporting Diddy, has said that he's a victim of extortion, of a plot strategized by the Me Too movement. So, this case is really getting back into the kind of, like you said, the Harvey Weinstein power dynamics, women and men conversation that we keep seeing again and again.
Well, actually, that brings me seamlessly, Aisha, onto my next question. To some extent, do you think that it could be a bit of a test for the US justice system, just in terms of trust and trust being eroded in the system? I mean, we saw with Donald Trump that he, during his trial, he cried foul and accused the court proceedings of being a witch hunt. And P Diddy could do that, couldn't he? I mean, you've just mentioned there Kanye West or Ye or whatever he's called these days, saying, similar kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell from being in the courthouse, all of the arrivals, that the Diddy team are prepared for if he is released without any charges. They have their PR teams there. They've got camera crews. I would not be surprised if depending how this verdict goes, we're going to see this kind of redemption arc, similarly to Trump. But going back to Trump, I don't know if this is kind of the biggest test to the US justice system right now. He has signed 139 executive orders, and we are starting to see those play out in the Supreme Court. I mean, just yesterday, the Supreme Court were hearing testimonies about Trump's executive order on the birthright citizenship test. And we've seen that also with the kind of flights to El Salvador. It's across the spectrum that the judiciary is under pressure, not just in this case. But, there are rumors that also if P. Diddy is found guilty, that Trump may give him a pardon as well. So there's a lot of question marks still.
Now, unlike several celeb cases, I mean, I can remember O.J. Simpson's being televised. This one isn't on telly, but there is, and I saw it yesterday, an AI video that's doing the rounds. Now, when I watched it, it is almost like a Hollywood movie. But then, of course, you do realise that these are fake characters created by AI. Let's have a little listen to it anyway.
This is Sean Combs. To the public, he was Puff Daddy, or Diddy, a cultural icon, a businessman larger than life. But there was another side to him, a side that ran a criminal enterprise.
I mean, I'm just totally fascinated by this. I mean, who, why has this been created? I mean, it is absolutely mind-blowing, this, and I'm guessing it's going to run for the duration of the trial.
Yes. I mean, Law and Crime are a channel that tend to be online, and they tend to give live streams from court proceedings and updates on, very high-profile celebrity trials. And so when there's no cameras in the courtroom, they just got creative, and they started using AI tools to basically turn the actual court transcripts to life. You know, some people think it's awful. There's a reason why cameras should not have been in there. But I spoke to one AI expert yesterday who was also slightly pessimistic and said, if this is the biggest abuse that people think of AI is happening right now, then they don't really know what's going on. Like, this is low level usage. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Netflix are really upset because they probably wanted to turn it into a whole drama, and now, you know, AI beat them to it.
Now we can actually feast our eyes on something, I suppose, if that's what we have appetite for. Now, Aisha, you talked about TikTok before. What has reaction? I mean, yeah, we've kind of covered, I suppose, you know, the reaction on social media. It is everywhere. You can't escape it on your feeds. But I know that people have been giving kind of their daily commentary on it, like almost armchair reporters. Is that right?
Yes. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's either people are at home reading the transcripts, or I think I saw about 4 people constantly live streaming from outside of the court. You've got kind of like citizen journalists, TikTokers coming out, giving their takes of what they heard of the testimony. It is, yeah, it's unbelievable. I don't think it's going to go away. You know, even as the trial proceeds, I think people are going to stay on this conversation, stay on this day by day. Like, it's not going away anytime soon.
Well, as long as you're happy to keep chatting to me, we will stay with this conversation next week, hopefully too, Aisha. Thank you so much for telling us all about that. It is absolutely fascinating, and you gave me so much more information today. Thanks very much, Aisha. And we shall see how that trial continues. Well, that is it for today. If you are listening to this on a podcast app and have been affected at all by what we have been speaking about today, then we have put up some details to support services in the show notes. Remember, you can subscribe to What You Need to Know wherever you get your podcasts, as well as watch us on ITVX and on YouTube. But for now, thank you very much for listening, and bye-bye.